You saw it on the pre-grid, the excitement up here at the very most northwest corner of America, finding out that Kart Chaser was rolling into town, and we can assure you that the excitement when we rolled in Friday night and Saturday morning was very much mutual. We welcome you back to Sumas International Motorsports Academy up here in Sumas, Washington for the final round of the Northwest Karting Alliance Burly Products Super Cup. My name is Jackson Lambros. Alongside me in the booth, SKUSA S5 champion, Tri-C champion, current iRacing Creator Series points leader, Dean Helt. Dino, the best part about this is we've already had one day of action under our belts. We've got another right ahead of us. Track is completely dry this morning. I think maybe a little bit of a sprinkle scheduled around lunchtime, but as it's looking right now, we are scheduled for a full day of dry racing to play us out of the 2026 season.
Yeah, thankfully we have a change of fortunes. This time yesterday we were getting rained on every time that it seemed like it was going to lighten up. It just seemed to come back a little bit harder than the time before, but looks like for the most part today, the very unlike northwestern weather is going to stay away here this afternoon. And we have minis on the track. It was a really good race yesterday. Kind of curious to see what happened to the speed of Maverick Thompson. Really dominated the pre-final and was not able to translate that speed into the main event. We'll see if they've made some changes to that 95 kart, very reminiscent of Lightning McQueen. We'll see if Lightning strikes twice here today.
The pace is very much there in the four-cycle categories. I think it was more teething issues getting back over to dry conditions for Mav in the mini and micro Swift categories in 60cc. Regardless, it is a very different song and dance for qualifying this morning as, again, fully dry conditions. So you're seeing very quickly some of these drivers buddy up, find some people that they can lock bumpers with and maximize that straight line speed as they work their way through tricky turn number 5. And the 44 of, I believe, Riley Smith, that Croc Promotions machine, giving the bumper to the 43 of, what I want to believe is
Fickling, I believe.
Fickling, or is it Thorpe Double? It's one of the TB karts, obviously.
It's Fickling.
It is Fickling. I'm 99% sure it is Fickling.
The Thorpes are a little too big for it to fit in these
I
carts.
think
Very,
so.
very tall,
I
both
think
of them.
so. Fickling still coming into this weekend as a championship contender. Run a show for round number 10. Second verse, same as the first for this weekend. We get started with Cadet Briggs 206, move over to Shifter Light and Shifter Heavy, Northwest 100 Senior, and then we'll run multi-class with Tag Junior, Northwest 100 Junior. Again, just one driver in the 150cc category. I feel like they put extra ballast on that kart, but we'll be running against the 3 in Northwest 100 Junior. Multi-class Madness, Grandmasters and Masters for 206, Tag Senior, Tag Heavy, Junior Briggs 206, Northwest 60cc, and then our back-to-back heats for Senior Briggs 206. Talking to NWKA officials this morning, I believe the same amount of individuals will make that transfer over from the heats and the LCQ, so the game plan will be to have 36 in the main event.
I can tell you, obviously, it's very, very cool to see the LCQ. You obviously hate to see some drivers have to go home, but you know this is a big deal. You got to earn your spot in the main event. Hopefully we can see the Gene Machine. We'd love to see Mr. Levy make his way in the 206, but we'll have to wait for that a little bit later on. Now we have timing and scoring finally getting updated. It is Parker, or rather not Parker Thompson. It is Maverick Thompson top of the board at a 1:03. These kiddos in the dry are already going quicker than what the shifter karts were doing in the wet, as we've got somebody going exploring on the exit of turn number 1 on the inside. Hopefully that driver will be able to regain control and bring themselves back onto the racing surface. It is a 5-minute qualifier. As you can see the timer up on the top left, about halfway home already for this first qualifying session. Maverick Thompson, I got to get that out of my head. Maverick Thompson did a great job of getting a toe off of the back of the 43 and the 44 of Schmidt and Fickling. He finds himself at the top of the board.
Things finally going the way of the 95 here once again in 4-stroke, as that is the 46, Sebastian Ochi, who has competed both at the regional and national level down in the West Coast. Checking a little bit further forward here with 43 of Tyrus Filking and Riley Smith working their way out of the final corner. These two have been bumper to bumper. And if you've tuned in from watching CKNA Summer Nats this weekend, you know that this is absolutely the way you need to have it dialed in. Find someone you can work with. And what's actually been interesting to me here as they've gone first and second on the leaderboard, is there going to be potentially a swap now that we're halfway through the session? You can see Riley maybe popping out, hey, I think I maybe have a little bit of a faster kart. Maybe it's my turn to lead and your turn to push. But the issue is now that we're on a dry surface, it's a lot harder to overtake in the 206 categories.
A wise man once said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think right now this formula is working for the 44 and the 43 currently, as mentioned. Top of the board, usurping Maverick Thompson, who I think might have already pulled it off into the garage area, thinking that maybe that lap was going to be good enough, as he has been usurped by the 43 and the 43 or 44. Still a very, very technical track for these young kiddos. Surprising to see the entire top 7 within 4/10 of one another. We'll see if anybody's going to improve late, but with a minute left to go in this session, likely these drivers beginning at their final laps, it will be close. And of course, as I say that, Maverick Thompson all by his lonesome goes to the top, but not before Sebastian Ochi goes ahead and takes over the top spot at a 59.7.
No draft, no problem. And I'm looking out of our window here, Dean, and I am seeing that 95 getting absolutely no help. And still, Schmidt giving the bumper to Fickling as those two are trying to work together. But I'm not sure how much longer they're going to be able to coexist. For the time being, Sebastian Ochi, same, as the clean air is actually helping him more in the corners. That's kind of the thing as well. This is a very Spring Mountain, Santa Maria style track in that you're on throttle, but you're constantly turning the wheels, so you need that clean air. You need that downforce over the front of the kart.
Not really. I think at a place like this, especially with this little horsepower in these karts, really a tow, as we're seeing with Schmidt and Fickling, can be very beneficial rather than having the excess drag. And also, we do not have a tailwind or a headwind thus far today. As Maverick Thompson is going to jump himself back up to P2 as the checkered flag is out on the session. I think maybe Schmidt and Fickling will be able to get one more. Also want to give a huge shout out to Croft moving himself up into Ashton Croft, I should mention, moving himself up into P5, but by almost 3/10, Sebastian Ochi looking like he's going to be leading the field to the green flag in the pre-final.
Still to play for here as a couple of them roll through. I believe Beckett Meyer was going to be the last one to roll through. That is a Croc Promotions chassis, by the way, for Jensen, but custom graphics. Croc drivers part of Midnight Motorsports. As the two Meyer brothers trying to work their way forward, and we'll have to do so from the bottom half of the bracket. Regardless, it's pole position once again for the 46 is Sebastian Ochi. Maverick Thompson will be on the front row for him. As we'll move over, we're ready to roll gears. It's Shifter Light coming up next.
On track or off, Brandon Jarskrek Racing delivers elite performance. Led by 4-time Pro National Champion Brandon Jarskrek, our team masters driver coaching, data-driven analysis, and mechanical precision at every national event. Contact us today at BrandonJarskrekRacing.com.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
You know, I'm really starting to like this go-karting thing.
Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh, can I show you this cute dress I just got?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, it's so cute.
I just love it.
ready to row here in Digital Assistance Pro Shifter Light for round number 10 of the Burly Products Super Cup here at SIMA. Jackson Lambros, Dean Helt with you in the broadcast booth just on the inside of turn number 10. We're about to be buzzed by the hometown hero Massimo Valiente as he starts his first qualifying lap here for our 5-minute session. Connor Weck just behind Hermanson and Grayson Thorpe double with Riley Miller in the 92 on track.
Yeah, would it be anybody else out on track first for a driver going for the Triple Crown today? Only got one of them yesterday, was really quick in this race as well. Had everything that he could handle from King Assad, Niko Dumbayev. Hopefully, I'm really hoping to see some good pace out of the youngster once again today. Really take it to his KZ running teammates. But it is all Massimo going first. I would only imagine a nice return to form for this racetrack. What was a very soggy qualifying session yesterday. Also would love to see if Thorpe Double is able to find some pace. Really did a great job in the pre-final yesterday. Just did not have the pace in the final to stick with your 2 liters. I think maybe chewed up his tires a little bit too much.
For sure, don't count out Grayson. And talking to the Wick family last night back at the GFC tent, older brother Kyle was first to admit, yeah, we're a Northwest family, but honestly, the weather in our neck of the woods in Oregon, it really isn't that bad. And frankly, there's not that much time where we actually run the shifters in the wet. So for Connor, it was a lot of driving by Braille yesterday, trying to figure out what the limits are in these conditions and especially get this GFC dialed in for the rain. Obviously, plenty of data that they could go off of at the professional level, especially after that very treacherous Spring Nationals at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. But still a lot of learning for Connor yesterday, and obviously a final that did not go the way he wanted to after contact, I believe, with Eric Hermanson, who again remains as a dark horse as the kind of third prong of Italkart. But regardless, Connor Wick trying to bring home hardware here on Sunday for Wicked Motorsports and Gary Carlton. Massimo Valiente quickest to get us started, 51.154. Just about a 10th and a half over Connor Wick. Then it's Assad Nikotimbayev, Andrew Byrne, Eric Hermanson. It's Riley Miller in the 92. Riley helping out with the Academy now full-time. Actually resides in the timing tower where we were perched last year, but is coaching full-time for a lot of people here at the Academy, helping keep the wheels turning here at the border and making sure that all the ducks are in a row. So pretty cool gig to be able to live at the racetrack. Finds himself P6 on track right now. Obviously, the guy knows his way around this race course. Wick to the line once again. Valiente really turned up the Wick last time by, pun intended. 50.480. Puts him 0.6 over Connor in the 19.
Yeah, we heard yesterday in talking with Kyle Wick that he's done laps here upwards of a 49.6, so still not quite to the ultimate pace. Obviously, this LeConte rubber, not something that I think of these drivers are super familiar with, and Connor Wick really showing the speed as well out of this GFC package, and once again, I'm sure wanting to get back. We were surprised yesterday to hear that these drivers actually struggling with being overstuck, even though we only had about a half a day's worth of running on this racetrack in dry conditions when the rubber was completely wiped off the surface. So only about a second off of the ultimate pace that we've heard from a driver who obviously finished P3 at the Pro Tour, very highly rated. Lots of experience under the belt of both Wicks as we are coming ever closer to the end of this session.
Dino, I got to walk the track a little bit earlier before you rolled in, and just even walking on the racing line, I can tell you the LeConte rubber has already been laid down big time. I'm not sure the rain did as much damage as we visually thought, but it is still very much rubbered in. But at this point, a couple of things I want to consider. First of all, these guys have already done a lot to try and loosen up the rear, make it as free as possible. If you're already overstuck at this point in the weekend, what else can you really do from a setup standpoint to really make that kart rotate, especially in these slower corners?
Well, in talking with Kyle Wick, I think he said pretty much everything that you can do. Go as wide as you possibly can. Take all the seat struts off to make sure that you transfer as much weight as possible to get that chassis in the rear axle to flex. You can maybe go to a super, some chassis you put a hard axle in it, some chassis you put a softer axle in. It really depends on what the geometry is. And then go out super low on tire pressure, make sure that the tire has a lot of give, because really, like we talked about with a couple drivers yesterday, it's all about effectively trying to adjust that spring rate, that flexibility of the rear of these go-karts. I'm amazed that we're struggling at a track like this with these conditions, with being overstuck. But drivers seem to be putting it to good use, as would you suspect? I saw Nika Dumbayev going to the top of the board. That Vortex power unit is
a little bit off there.
Massimo Valiente exploring the track limits. Luckily was able to bring it back on, but the youngster who we saw so much speed out of yesterday finds himself on top of the board.
This is the 72 of Eric Hermansen. Currently sat back P7 on track right now. Asad Nikodembayev 50.064 puts him half a tenth up from Valiente. Wick, Westland, and Parada, your top 5 provisionally. I think as well we're starting to see a lot of that marbling once again offline. It's a wide kind of black line you're seeing here mid-corner, so obviously it's not fully single groove, but I think a big fear here is the more we continue to do dry running, it could become harder and harder to really make a move offline.
Yeah, and just as I said, gave all my credits and my props to Nikodembayev. Who else but Valiente Massimo goes back to the top of the board by 0.02 of a second. If that gap is anything to go off of, we've got another great show coming up for you guys later on today for the shifter light category. Shifter heavy coming up next. Won't have to wait very long before we're banging gears once again.
Valiente and Nikodembayev just 0.02 a gap, but that will make it in all Ital Kart front row for shifter light. Was a P2 finish on Saturday for Scott Schaefer, but where he's at in the point standing right now with a just under 100-point lead over Chris Worley. All he needs right now is to keep it consistent, keep it on track, and the Midnight Motorsports Shifter Heavy Championship in 2026 will be his. He'll try to put it on pole here for qualifying on round 10.
Try as he might. Obviously, we have the black and white Civil War at the front of this field. Still a championship to be decided. I wouldn't want to say too much for the commentator's curse, but at least a somewhat healthy lead for Mr. Schaffer coming into this final race of the season. And you can see Chris Worley right behind him on the racing surface, trying to make sure he stays as close to, both on the track and in the points, to his GFC competition. But it was ultimately, what's the name again? Hagar.
Yep. Excuse me, Ryan Hager.
Ryan Hager,
114.
thank you.
We have not seen him too much this season. Made his season debut on Saturday in Spokane, finished P2. Second race was yesterday, did it one step better. We haven't seen him too much, but when he's out here, he is incredibly strong. First green flag laps coming in. Schaefer first there, then the Croc Promotions 55. The Midnight Motorsports machine of Worley going to go quick as 54.115. Puts him 0.25 seconds up from Schaefer. Travis Henson coming in at a 54.712. Jeff Westland a little bit further back. And crucially right now, have not seen Ryan Hager on track yet. He has, for a handful of times this season and in past seasons, been a Saturday-only driver, potentially making the trek back home on Sunday, and that could be the case once again here. Regardless, Worley to the top, Schaefer, and now Kozakowski on his debut weekend. Finished P8 yesterday, already looking a lot better in the 70.
I was going to say, though, it does seem as though Schaffer's karts kind of come to life. Worley might have only had one good bullet in the tank, so to speak. Across the line now, do we have a new provisional pole sitter? Yes, we do. Scott Schaffer goes back to the top at a 52.8, but still only, we're looking at Westland as well. Jeff Westland goes to P2 in his CRG, I believe, into that spot. And, of course, as I say that, Travis Henson, 52.7. We've got 4 drivers separated by just a little less, or a little more, rather, than 3/10 of a second. Even though we might be missing out on Mr. Hager's appearance this afternoon, it seems as though we're still going to have a really good fight here in Shifter Heavy.
Happy Valley, Oregon native Ryan Hager might be making that trek down to the Portland metropolitan area today. And again, if you are doing this for fun and not for money, it is a very hard thing to do when you're doing it out of your own wallet. Imagine a lot of these guys at the Masters and senior level, using Friday off to make the trek up here to the very most northern part of Washington. And for a handful of drivers not able to run Sunday, they obviously got work on Monday, so very good chance that Hager using this time to get back down to South Oregon. But regardless, Scott Schaefer back to the top now, 52.118. Himself and Westland going back and forth. Travis Henson starting to turn it up in that 103 CRG machine. Chris Worley in the 55. Now Aaron Dost in the 9, working his way up into the top 5. As we check in a little bit further back with the 55 of Chris Worley.
Little bit too much mustard on that hot dog going into turn number 7. Unfortunately, likely not going to be an improvement. You can see really attacking the entry of these corners. Just does not seem to have the rear stability that he needs to lean on it in the center of the corner, really compromising those exits. So that thing is freed up for sure. Maybe we saw yesterday the driver of the 55 really struggle in those intermediate/wet conditions that they had in their pre-final. Maybe, one of the older drivers not wanting to, wrench on that kart too much,
right,
knows that he's got a good piece under him when it counts later on today. And as we heard, many drivers struggling with being overstuck. So maybe just not quite in the right window for now, but, that thing will hopefully, for his sake, kind of come to fruition a bit later on this afternoon. But it is all Scott Schaffer further extending his margin over Jeff Westland now by a little over 4/10, almost 5/10, a half second quicker. Very close between Westland and Henson. I'm surprised to see these drivers going so deep into this session. We've heard nothing but that this LeConte rubber, once it gets hot, you kind of got to back off or else it will start to degrade, and these drivers will be on these tires for the remainder of this afternoon. So surprising to see that. But as we're coming to the checkered flag, I believe next time by for your leaders, going to be really close to see if anybody can improve, but I would say it's unlikely at this point in the session.
Yeah, going to be right at the buzzer here, I think, for Schaffer. Not the only Worley in the field, by the way, the 55. We've actually seen, I'm not sure if it's brother or definitely a family member, but both Chris and one other Worley, Ricky Worley, a handful of times around the first 2 rounds, as well as Spokane. And, of course, Maggie Worley fighting for a championship right now in 206 Cadet. So always family matters in karting, especially at the regional and club level. So very cool to see. Henson trying to find another quarter of a second to make a run for the front row. Westland trying to find a little bit more to try and make himself front row worthy. But we'll keep an eye on the 103 Croc Promotions machine as the Midnight Motorsports driver muscles it through the motos for the final time. Sharp turning, but very smooth on exit. Quick lift, then gets back into the power. Just kissing the curb on the outside, not able to find the time. And that will indeed be Scott Schaefer on pole position for the Shifter Heavy pre-final. Henson looking to join him on the front row, and he found more on that final lap. Another quarter second or so puts him 4.49 over Henson.
Yeah, I think it's more so this is the track finally waking up a little bit. You know, it takes a couple of sessions. The kiddos don't really put a lot of energy into the racing surface, but for sure, after 2 shifter kart sessions, the track is all hot and prepped and ready. These are going to be probably some of the fastest lap times that we're going to see today. Up next, NW100 Senior. These drivers will be trying to keep those rear ends loose and make sure that they've got what they need to go for the pole position.
You know, I'm really starting to like this go-karting thing.
Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh, can I show you this cute dress I just got?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, it's so cute.
I just love shopping.
I love shopping too.
Oh my god.
Wait, did you guys say you like shopping?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, dude, I have the perfect place to do that at. ShopPayKara.com. At ShopPayKara.com, you can get free shipping on orders $200 or more. You can get anything you want. Like MXC rims, gloves, rib vests, shoes, anything that you need. All at ShopPayKara.com.
Who is he talking to?
No idea.
But we're gonna have to check it out. Sounds like a great deal.
Sure does.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Motorsport.
Cut. You
What?
all right, man? You sound way off.
What?
I don't know, you sound like you're asleep still. Is the age finally getting to you? You're only how old, 42?
Dude, I'm 27. I'm not even 3 years older than you.
Well, that's pretty old. Well, that's 3 years away from Masters, dude. You need a little pick-me-up. Try a Perico. It's a healthy energy drink alternative.
Do you walk around with these in your pockets?
I actually do. Always two, one for me and clearly one for you.
Whatever. Not that old, dude.
Did it help though?
Yeah.
Pericazo. And you are that old.
Ready to rock for Northwest 100 Senior. It's qualifying for round number 10, the final day of the Northwest Karting Alliance Burly Products Super Cup. My name is Jackson Lambros. Dean Helt with you as well here in the broadcast booth. And again, open regulations here. Able to run 3 different makes. By and large, the most popular still the NWKA 100. We've got a handful of Rock VLRs. Ooh, a little bit of a checkup there, it looks like, from Port Schlotthauer in the 845, and a hand up on the inside of turn number 1. Not sure what the problem potentially would be there.
I think the problem was that he found himself at the head of the train, did not want to be the one punching a hole in the air for those behind, because as he's gotten in the back of the train, all of a sudden magically that kart is working seemingly A-okay, although his hand is still up, maybe some engine issues for one of our lead contenders. One of the drivers that was super quick yesterday in the 206 final came up about 2 spots short of winning that race. It was, I believe it was Ryan Miller in the 96 Ital kart that took home top honors. We'll be seeing them a little bit later on, but this front grouping, the 979, the 66, and the 916, that very, very cool Sonny Hayes tribute helmet for the driver of Ben Corky, one of the drivers that also was really quick. We had a bunch of really quick drivers yesterday in that 206 final. A lot of drivers doing double duty up here in the Northwest for the last round of the NWKA Super Burly Cup. I want to say Luther goes to the top of the board. It is Owen Luther at 55.3, but we'll see if anybody, and one of the drivers that had a tough end to the yesterday in Grayson Talaba, we saw him coming to a stop just past start finish, coming to the white flag of his pre-final, I'm sure wanting to put those demons to bed, and thus far he's doing it. Top of the board, 55.2.
Talked to his mom earlier this morning in the San Marino Cafe, and I can guarantee to you he was practically praying for rain this morning. The group out of Langley, British Columbia. We'd call it British weather. They would call it very Canadian weather. But regardless, the kid in the OTK is no stranger to running out in the wet. Kart Chaser brought to you by Shop AKR. You can scan the QR code on the left-hand side of your screen. And shipping over $200 free. And it is everything you need shipped to your door, whether it's pre-built, karting gear and safety gear, even a handful of stuff if you're a road racer, and do some of the big car stuff. Acceleration Kart Racing, the title sponsor of Kart Chaser.
Jack Bowdish rather going to this P2 on top of the board. Again, another driver that we've seen do double duty, drivers that maybe have a little bit more in the notebook thus far this weekend from running all these extra laps. Really, really a big advantage if you can get it, especially when we had such different conditions that basically washed everything out. If you had a notebook, it'd be all soggy, all the ink would have been running. You could basically throw it away and start from scratch. But early on, still very, very close at the front. Between the top three, only 400 separate Owen Luther, Jack Bowdish, and Ben Corkery in P3. I believe that is essentially this top three grouping that we see here on the screens, the top three really separating themselves from the rest of the field.
Middle of the triplet, that's the 66 of Jack Bowdish. He's your championship points leader as it stands for CMC 100cc Senior. It is still very close, though, over himself and Colt Schlotthauer just behind him there in the 845. Bowdish at 1873. And funnily enough, Schlotthauer at 1783. You've got Owen Luther not too far back either at 1768. Then Ben Corkery going to be a little bit more of a three-pointer to make this happen, but certainly not impossible. I believe just at the high 1600s, so still has a shot. That's kind of the outside chance, though. Adrian Dumont, Tegan McNeil, Mikkel Dunsaker, the 6 drivers with full championship eligibility still. But for a lot of these guys, passing is at a premium, just like the 4-cycle categories. Track position going to be very important, and you've got to make it happen right now if you think you've got pace. You've got nowhere else to hide behind, and you can't really sandbag. You can't really save tires.
Yeah,
you got to make it stick right now.
And a pretty healthy field as well. Any issues could really compromise your afternoon as we see the top three here. But now finally it is Broerken, Matthias Broerken jumping up to break up this lead triplet that you're seeing on your screens. Who would have thought, the first 3 drivers out of the pits really getting busy, getting early with, we have the regular GFC, I should say, of Owen Luther, followed by the Wicked Racing Kart of, I believe that is Jack Bowdish. So surprising to see Broerken seemingly in his own air, setting that lap time, putting very well to the long run speed of this kart. And also got to mention, this track is improving every single lap. The rubber that is existing on the racetrack that was put down yesterday, the wonderful LeConte rubber that we have here on offer here at SIMA, finally starting to wake up these drivers, doing some really, really quick laps. I mean, really not even going that much slower than we have, for the shifter karts, who have infinite power at all times as we look at this snarling group here of drivers trying to find a toe, but I'm not quite sure it's going to get there. And, of course, as I say that, Owen Luther takes back the top spot at a 53.5.
Ethan Acosta in the heart of that. Fat Karting League finalist last year, making the trek down to the Jensen Button karting circuit at Willow Springs, trying to drive himself into just outside of the top 10. That's a last lap run for the pole from Owen Luther, though. 53.557 puts him just over half a tenth above Jack Bowdish, and will get himself in the primo spot for the pre-final. Ben Corkery, Grayson DePaula, and Matthias Broerken. Only the second time we've seen Broerken, the second weekend, I should say. The local kid behind the wheel of 100cc machinery started the season off with a handful of top 10s, but didn't really find himself into the top 5, but looking very strong here at home. Step aside for just a moment here. When we come back, Tag Junior and 100cc Junior here from SIMA. Karts rolling for qualifying here for Tag Junior and Northwest 100 Junior, brought to you by Italian Motors and Wicked Racing. It's Matteo Pai, the lone 125 entry. That Rotex powered, what I believe is an Ital Kart. Certainly CMC colors it would look like. Maximilian de Guzman, who razzle-dazzled in Junior, moves back over to the 100cc's, looking for a victory once again here. I believe it was issues for Kai Denus yesterday in the 22 with Ital Kart. He's back behind the wheel of the 22. 5-kart field, 4 in 100cc, and then again that lone 125 tag. But it was pretty close, actually, between Pai and the front runners in 100cc. And with the tracker gripped in, I think maybe now we start to see that difference a little bit more motor to motor.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think especially in the weight category, the KA100s, or the NW100 platform, I should say, maybe a little bit lighter than the Tag Junior on board for Mr. Matteo Pai, who currently sits on top of the board at a 54.6. But yeah, very close in performance. We saw de Guzman, if he had maybe 1 or 2 more laps, could have made a run at the overall victory, but I think also part of his brain thinking, hey, think big picture. You've already got the win in class. Make sure that you break home the checkered flag in class before you think about going for something in the overall. But it would be very cool to see these 2 different kinds of karts, 2 very different kinds of power plants go head-to-head with one another here this afternoon. It does seem as though de Guzman has a little bit of an advantage in terms of pace compared to some of his rivals at the moment. But still anything to play for. Who knows what's, when these teams have found something overnight, maybe going with a little bit different philosophy. Obviously a very different track than what we saw yesterday, which is one that is going to continually take grip so long as the rain stays away. As de Guzman actually will usurp Matteo Pai and find himself on top of the board at a 53.9. Really gripping and ripping here in that number 887 GFC.
Good stuff from the GFC pilot, the 887. Another driver doing double duty and could very much walk away with 2 trophies by the end of Sunday. But for Addison Herrick and the 2, who just improves to 3rd on track, we'll be the first to congratulate them, as they have already pretty much locked up the championship for Wicked 100cc Junior, as the only driver with perfect attendance. De Guzman, 3 weekends coming into the finale that they were driving. Same for Kai Denus. But again, still trying to grow this category. Obviously, the 100cc air-cooled motor is very popular in the West Coast. I think 90 entries regularly now at Rock Sonoma, so definitely we're seeing that more at the club and regional level
90?
Grow more and more. 90 for a club race? For a club race?
That's
in Sonoma?
crazy.
It's not bad.
No,
it's not bad.
That is incredible for a club race. But yeah, I mean, a platform that really has taken over large parts of the nation. I mean, for drivers that are looking to maybe upgrade a little bit out of the 206 category for the kiddos coming out of the 60cc stuff. Very similar kind of power plant, a little bit, a lot of similarities in that regard. So I think an engine and a platform that is relatively cost effective and a platform that is really simple. You don't have to also have the extra expense of having a radiator and all those extra bobs and bits. It's really it's kind of a throwback engine in a way.
Absolutely.
Or really it's kind of the dinosaur that just won't go away. It's the chicken, so to speak, that just won't go away here in the United States.
Well,
very simple.
It's part of that necessity of you want to make that move up from 2-stroke. You don't have water-cooled money, so you get that opportunity to potentially move up. And the guys up here for the Northwest Karting Alliance have made it easy with the amount of different engines you can pick and choose from with both the Rock VLR and the KA100 and what I believe Italian Motors calls the X100. Those are easy to mark out on track. Has the sometimes the red painted top with the shark fins alongside it, but also that airbox on the driver's right side, which I believe, we've seen something like that a lot, especially on the micro and mini engines as kind of an elbow guard for the kiddos. I believe that's to direct air in for cooling on the X100, but direct product of Valiente family and the home team here in Sumas doing everything they can to make the best product for their guys. Checking a little bit further back, that should be one of those motors drivers right of the 22 of Kai Denus. See if we can take a look. It's not, but it absolutely is on Herrick. That TV kart has it for sure. As that'll be the checkered flag. De Guzman still quickest, actually, coming to the line. 57.804. Matteo Pai second. Addison Herrick, Aiden Nash, and Kai Denus round out your group of 5. We'll move over to 4-cycle action when we return Masters and Grandmasters 206 here from Washington.
everyone, and welcome to the Motorsport.
Cut. You
What?
all right, man? You sound way off.
What?
I don't know, you sound like you're asleep still. Is the age finally getting to you? You're only how old, 42?
Dude, I'm 27. I'm not even 3 years older than you.
Well, that's pretty old. Well, that's 3 years away from Masters, dude. You need a little pick-me-up. Try a Perico. It's a healthy energy drink alternative.
Do you walk around with these in your pockets?
I actually do. Always two, one for me and clearly one for you.
Whatever. Not that old, dude.
Did it help though?
Yeah.
Pericazo. And you are that old.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Masters winner car, Mine Moralio, on track in that Burrell Art for Ascent competition, just ahead of who I believe is, well, we saw Kai Denus earlier on. That's Lauren, his dad, in the 18, just going purple. We were told by a handful of NWKA officials we've seen a couple more drivers come in just for Sunday, and I think you're seeing it just now here. Richard Cobble, we didn't see yesterday. I think Dave DeGrassi in here as well. Did we have an Intel car coming off? Uh-oh.
My apologies. Was muted there for a second, but we do have an Itzel Kart off on the exit of turn number 6, really ruining the lap of the drivers. Thankfully, very respectful. And the last thing you'd want is drivers to kind of blow through that yellow flag when there is a car kind of in the line of fire. So wisely backing off there for your top two with Lauren Denisius and Carmine Moralio, your winners and P2 runners. But yeah, we've got a couple extra entries. Obviously, some drivers, this is a double-header event. Some drivers coming in only for the Saturday or only for the Sunday, so nice to see a couple of extra drivers show up for this Master and Grandmaster category. Also want to give a shout-out to our Gene Master.
I have no idea what you're talking
Gene
about.
Master drivers, for those of you that fell in love with that yesterday.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
We appreciate the love on that one, but for the time being, about halfway, or coming up rather, a little bit past halfway in the session for Masters. Not really sure. They've rescinded that yellow flag even though the kart is still in the line of fire. I wish, you know, it's pretty well high-sided at turn number 6. I wish that driver would kind of pull off the track a little bit, but to each their own, as we see a little battle between your top two in the standings right now, seeing who is going to be the one to punch the hole in the air, trying to help each other out as they currently have as it is Michael Shorn actually in the 1:11. That is the quickest time of a 1 minute .9.
Kart Chaser coverage brought to you by GoPro. For 10% off, use promo code KartChaser10 and scan the QR code on the left-hand side of your screen. GoPro, be a hero. Michael Shorn going quickest with a minute .883. John Levy just behind, 15,000 separating the front row. We do need to give a tip of the cap to John Levy, who after not making the show yesterday for the 206 senior qualifier, or LCQ, excuse me, rolled that kart back over to the pre-grid, literally drove it to right in front of pit exit, rolled it back to his grid spot, and had a phenomenal battle with a handful of other drivers. I want to say, might have been Chris Oliotis or Don Miller, but regardless, really, really good stuff. A handful of drivers doing double duty. the 125 there of Randy Cole, who I've been told by the Moralios goes by the nickname Randy Swole, because off-grid, he's rocking the jeans on track. He's rocking the muscle tee anytime that top is coming off. So it is definitely suns out, guns out. Hopefully later on today, I think very similar as now. How about it? Randy Cole in the CRG now quickest minute .592. And the Grandmaster is showing the younger guys how to get it done.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff there. We saw yesterday there were a couple Grandmasters. I believe it was our winner yesterday in Grandmaster that actually caught from about 12 or 15 seconds back of the race leaders and would have put himself onto the podium in the Masters category. So cool to see that for the 125. One of our Gene Master drivers showing putting the pants on the field, so to speak, for the time being.
It is only like right now when Gene Masters exist, when you have the two drivers rocking the denim actually sharing the same part of the racetrack, only then does Gene Masters exist as a category. If that's not the case, we don't acknowledge it.
But they do always exist in our hearts. As
They
time has
always.
expired here for this session, the 5 minutes have come to a close. We'll see if Mr. Swole Cole can remain on the top of the leaderboard. Should be very tough. The 111 behind of Shorn has had a great lap. Will it be enough to usurp? Unfortunately, it is by almost 4/10. Mr. Michael Shorn, welcome to the show. Top of the board, 1 minute flat.
Your Grand Masters winner yesterday is on pole overall for Master and Grandmaster. Multi-class madness coming your way later on. Randy Swole alongside him on the front row. Lauren Danus, Brian Green, and Carmine Moralio make up your top 5. We'll take a breather from the 4-cycle stuff. Move back over to the tag stuff. Senior and heavy coming up from SIMA.
Welcome to the future of kart race preparation, Kart Sim Pro North America. Featuring laser-scanned North American kart circuits and precision-tuned kart physics developed using real telemetry, dyno and tyre data, Kart Sim Pro North America delivers the most advanced and realistic kart simulation experience available today. Whether you're training for race day, refining your lines, or shaving tenths off your personal best, Kart Sim Pro gives you pro-level insight without leaving your home. Trusted by world champions, coaches, and karting enthusiasts alike, this is where virtual practice translates into real-world performance. Experience the thrill, the challenge, and the edge. Kart Sim Pro North America, use code CHASER20 to get 20% off today.
When it comes to innovation on the track, Odenthal Racing Products leads the pack. From the highly popular EasyGP camera mounts to our tough case to GoPro case, racers everywhere trust ORP for strength, reliability, and precision. We're proud to be the #1 engine mount manufacturer in the USA. And with our new Easy Bumper Retainer System, you won't get caught out with a failed bumper bolt again. Odenthal Racing Products. Lead or get left behind.
Karts on the grid here for Tag Senior as we are ready to go for qualifying for round number 10 of the Burly Products Super Cup. Great variety here, motor to motor. I'm actually seeing a handful of variety here between the two different options for that X125 from Italian Motors. That's the green top a lot of people are running. That's a different top end that allows you to, I think, have a little bit more on the low end of the torque curve, get a little bit more punch out of corners. But for the longer tracks, they offer a red top that has a little bit more top end, better for the straightaways. So easily interchangeable, gives you a handful of different options. Let's head a little bit further back. That could have been, I believe, an X30.
I believe we finally have an X30 making its way onto the grid. But yeah, pretty cool technology for what Italian Motors has on offer for their X125s. As you can see, the green tops on offer for these drivers. And as we found out yesterday, optional front brakes for those karts. I mean, they're essentially shifter kart engines without the shifting. So pretty impressive technology.
It's only tag heavy where they allow that, but that is still incredible because we don't see that any other part of the world in terms of karting. But the heavy guys have that option, and for a lot of guys, I mean, this is a very heavily gripped track. They have a lot of really, really high-speed corners. It's a no-brainer. But I believe the senior guys still only rear brakes, so that'll make it still a challenge to hustle around this 0.57-mile circuit. Getting ready to go here. Step aside for just a moment. Come back to you when the seniors hit the track. Don't forget to follow us at kart.chaser on all social media, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. You don't want to miss out on any of our action as we travel North America and beyond to cover karting at the regional, national, and club level. Kart.chaser, KC Grassroots, and KC Kids, wherever you view social content. This championship pretty much locked up, Tag Senior, as Massimo Valiente with the perfect attendance has built that gap over Eric Hermansen coming into this weekend. And even after the little kerfuffle in lap 5, the mechanical DNF as a chain pop for Valiente coming out of tricky turn 3, it is still very much a final race to lock it down for the 2026 title. He's on track. He's working his way into turn 7.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate event yesterday. One of those rare occurrences that is unfortunately a natural part of karting here, really all over the world. Just, you know, the tighter you can run that chain, the more of a direct link that you have between the engine and that rear axle, and every little bit of horsepower that you can squeeze out of these go-karts. I know there are some drivers that only do half a day on a chain before they swap it out to a brand new one. So unfortunate for sure, but shouldn't put too much of a damper on the day. Early going here, it is Gudetta Gardner going top of the board at a 53.6. But I'd imagine it's going to take a little while for this LeConte rubber to really open up. We'll see which drivers have the speed in about a minute and a half or so when these tires really wake up and are showing their fullest potential.
Good pace for Gudetta in the rain yesterday. We haven't seen him too much for the majority of the season. I think he's only done has done all the rounds except Medford, has traveled well and only had a handful of races where that 15 has been off of the podium, but a P11 with the mechanical at the very start of round number 9 made it a very long night for Wicked Racing to get that kart ready to go once again. Regardless, going to start the first lap as the quickest one out there, but Valiente was already close, 300ths, and will now go top table, 52.282. Gardner able to respond and hold at least front row for now, but 2/10 back.
I mean, we saw yesterday, Massimo Valiente was pretty much on another planet compared to everybody else. Those I mean, would you expect anything less from Ital Kart being really, really good here at SIMA, a place that they, I would say, is more or less they're American. At least this, a little south of the border, this is what they would call home for themselves. Eric Hermansen slotting himself in P3 ahead of Mateus Pereirkin, as well as Giovanni Benson currently sitting in P3 at a 53.3. Still thinking that we still got some time yet till these tires really, really open up. I'd imagine the fast laps will either be this lap or the next one for these drivers. But in a 5-minute session at a track, we are essentially doing a little less than a minute per lap. The laps go by quick and the opportunities are few and far between. as we see this is Hermansen making his way into the final corner. Really looking good on the hands. That kart seems to be handling quite well. Will it translate on the lap time? That answer is yes to P2 for temporarily for Mr. Hermansen.
Smooth, slow, controlled inputs, and in these long sweeping corners here, turns 1 through 3, you absolutely need to do it that way to feed the kart in and be gentle with these LeConte tires on entry. Still half a second back, though, from Massimo Valiente, 51.946. Talked to him earlier this morning and kind of asked him how difficult it is when you're doing triple duty. He said, I've been doing it a handful of years now, but when I was first doing it, I felt like I just immediately walked back to the RV and conked out immediately. As really, it's just shifter. That's the real trouble for him, because it feels like that alone is more physical requirement than Briggs and Tag combined. But he's gotten used to it, and at this point is very much a regular in doing it. He does it more than just when it's at home. He's actually traveled around this entire season and done all 5 weekends doing triple duty. Has gotten a good sum of trophies as a result, but you've driven all packages. You can get why it's so exhausting to do that level of driving.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. It is driving a shifter kart, especially one of these KZ machines. If you're driving fast at a track like this, especially if the rain does stay away and the rubber continues to build, it is going to be a very, very physical task for these drivers. But I tell you what, Valiente is putting on an SVG NASCAR performance. If we just took Valiente out, we'd have a great little battle here between the rest of the field. Only 6/10 separating P2 through P6. But Valiente kind of putting the sore thumb on the field right now at a 51.5. That is almost, I mean, that's quicker than some of our Masters, or rather not Masters, but our shifter heavy drivers were able to do on their qualifying attempts. That 395 is absolutely flying, as I believe it is Giovanni Benson jumping himself up into position number 5 temporarily at a 52.5. So the track is waking up. The ambient temperature is still pretty cool. These will be, I believe, the quickest times of the day as we see Cadetta Gardner go within 3/10. Checkered flag is out on the session. Massimo Valiente, once again, the driver going for the Triple Crown here today for the final race of the NWKA Burly Cup, finds himself on top at the end of Tag Senior.
The good news is when you do 3 classes, you're able to rack up a lot of stats real quick, and that is already the 21st pole position for Massimo over the past handful of years. Cadetta Gardner was able to really make that 15 come to life again, but couldn't find it past a 1/4 of a second back. Will be alongside Mossy on the front row. Mateus Berwerken, Eric Hermansen, and Gio Benson, your top 5. Step aside for just a moment. When we return, it's Tag Heavy from SIMA.
When it comes to innovation on the track, Odenthal Racing Products leads the pack. From the highly popular EasyGP camera mounts to our tough case to GoPro case, racers everywhere trust ORP for strength, reliability, and precision. We're proud to be the #1 engine mount manufacturer in the USA. And with our new Easy Bumper Retainer System, you won't get caught out with a failed bumper bolt again. Odenthal Racing Products. Lead or get left behind.
Johnny Sutton in the 22. It's Al Kart leading him out as the defending winner on Saturday and trying to lock down this championship. And the fellow Victorian from British Columbia, that's the Islander Dale Taylor in that ketchup and mustard 68, working his way into turn number 1.
Yeah, we had a great conversation with him and his wife over at their pits yesterday. I will say it is a very beautiful and very eye-catching, that color of yellow. There's just something that's just like salivating. It is very hot dog-esque. From the man from the island of Victoria. So hopefully a good result here today for them, sporting one of the local businesses here in Bob's Burgers and Brews just up the street here from SIMA. And front brakes on that 175, as we mentioned earlier on. Very, very cool looking go-kart, and hopefully it will go just as fast, as cool as it looks.
We've talked about it a couple times, both this weekend and well prior, but we've got a really good chunk of specifically 125cc drivers north of the border, whether it's Rotax, X30, etc. But a lot of guys from British Columbia making the trek down and crossing the border as a one-off entry this weekend, whether it's Dale Taylor, Tony McNair, James Pickles, Tom Madden, and obviously Andre Joffrey as well, who looked very, very strong in that TB kart, but still nobody able to catch Johnny Sutton in the 22.
And we saw how good yesterday Mr. Pickles was, really coming on strong in the late stages of that final. Unfortunately, some kind of engine issue brought an end to his charge. But hopefully, for these drivers, like I said, it's a very rare occurrence that you get another shot at it. You get another chance to kind of right the wrongs of the demons that you had yesterday. So hopefully, no bad luck gremlins follow Mr. Pickles into this race today, or into the races later on today. The pre-final and the main events coming on later today. 2 minutes and 20 seconds into this session. Who would you guess is at the top, except for Johnny Sutton, the driver that really drove away yesterday? But I also want to mention Kempf was really close, really quick in the late stages. Was almost going to be able to give Johnny Sutton a run for his money. We'll see if that pace translates. But at the moment, it is a full 1 second gap between Johnny Sutton and Mr. James Kempf.
So again, it was a little bit of a lead for James Kempf in that 619 coming into this weekend, and it was very clear that for Sutton to make it happen, he would need to act fast. And now after a victory on Sunday and a second place finish for Kempf, those two come in with Kempf still as the leader at 1760, but for 1710 for Johnny Sutton, a win here and a little bit more bad luck for James Kempf could be a walk-off championship win for Johnny. Joe Filippenko back with 1675. Did win on Sunday at Tacoma a couple of weeks ago. That was his first win of the season and kind of punched his ticket in, excuse me, to really have a shot still at the championship. But a 7th place finish was not going to cut it for him yesterday. Still plenty of opportunities here today, obviously. And he's turned up the wick just a little bit more right now. But a lot of the guys coming down from BC really putting on a great fight. Frank Berthelon, who looked incredibly strong. Again, club-level driver up in BC.
And that pace is translating. Pickles goes to P2, separates the two drivers that you're seeing on track between Johnny Sutton and James Kempf. James Pickles really cooking here in this 84 Ital kart, making his way past the hot dog. We got Pickles and hot dog on the racetrack together. It is a match made in heaven here as we're coming up on the 1 minute remaining marker in this session. Unfortunately for Mr. Pickles, this is going to be a lap cooked. Unfortunately, not going to get the overlap that he needs to get in a free air as other drivers continuing to improve. This track, once again, the sun has not really joined us here. Very simple as some more Paul Tracy school of sign language on display there from Mr. Pickles. But that's just part of it. It is effectively multi-class racing, drivers of all different skill levels and disciplines on offer here, and different engine formats as well. Just trying to find that happy spot where he can get a free run. I think for Mr. Pickles, we'll get one more shot at it to reclaim that P2 that currently is being held by James Kempf. But also, that's another opportunity for guys like Andy Joffrey as well as Frank Berthelon to be able to find the time and get themselves up onto the front row.
Yeah, I think obviously a little bit of frustration further back there for Jamie Pickles. It looked like he was on a flyer and I think found the rear bumper of Taylor. And Taylor was trying to do his own program, didn't move out of the way, and was, now has to put all his chips in on this final lap as we are over 5 minutes. So this will be checkered flag this time by. What a gap, though, for Johnny Sutton. 7/10 clear of James Kempf. And now Frank Berthelon just able to bump his way up into the second row for the time being. Jukes in the 3. Robert going up into P7 at the buzzer. No improvement for McNair coming across the line. And here come the rest of them as they work their way out of the motos. No improvement for Sutton. Same could be said for Dale Taylor, Andre Joffrey. Joffrey a little bit further back than we expected as well. Was able to kind of capitalize on the rain yesterday. Was running around the podium positions back to P5. Will Beidel be the outside of your third row. That's how they're stacked up after tag heavy. Step aside for just a moment. When we come back, it's Briggs 206 here in SIMA.
Welcome back to Kart Chasers' production of the final round of the NWKA Burly Cup. I'm Dean Helt in the booth. Alongside Jackson Lambros, we have one of the best shows on offer. As we saw yesterday, a five-way fight for the win in the final for 206 Junior, Augie's Fiberglass Junior 206. I'd imagine Trevor Clinton is going to pick up right where he left off at the front of the train. We'll set the provisional pole time here as we get this session underway. Jackson, was quite the fight yesterday, a different cast of characters, no teammate alliances seemingly on offer yesterday. Tell us your thoughts about the action that we had on Saturday afternoon.
What's so fun is when you have no teammates, you force people to kind of work together when it's unimplied. And even it was back and forth of guys helping each other and then instantly stabbing each other in the backs the minute they got that position or the minute the run was there. And looking at the mix that we have out in front here, Dino, I anticipate it's going to be very much the same for Championship Sunday. Quick look at your 206 Junior standings brought to you by Augie's Fiberglass. It is Trevor Clinton in the kind of Coast Guard colored 61 as your points leader at 1,876. A little bit further back, Roscoe Schmidt in the 8, going to be one of your championship contenders. He's second at 1,756. 1,731 for Addison Herrick, so going to be a little bit more of a outside chance for the driver in the number 5, or excuse me, in the number 2 and P5, beg your pardon. But definitely needs to find that pace quickly here as we're already getting to the halfway point. But shockingly, it is one of the karts that was off of the podium yesterday. Colton Thorpe double on pole provisionally.
Yeah, but the results did not tell the story of that race. Spent most of the race inside the top 3, was second at the white flag, went for actually was leading at the white flag now that my memory decides to kick in a little bit. Went for that really aggressive park at turn 3, held the inside of turn 4, and did not expect the entire field essentially behind him to go around his outside of turn 4, got trained, and ultimately wound up with an unfortunate P5 finish. Those kinds of things, really sting, but once again, luckily for him, we'll have an opportunity to address the demons of round number 9 on Saturday. Provisionally still remains at the top of the board, but I tell you what, Trevor Clinton has a hell of a toe and a hell of a push right now. I would be surprised if that 61 kart doesn't go top of the board at the end of this lap.
You always got to give a tip of the cap to all the guys from British Columbia who go all the way down, sometimes as far south as the southernmost border of Oregon to come and race in NWKA action. And the Thorpe Double family, hailing from Cheminot, have traveled the entirety of this season. And Colton hasn't won yet, but man, he's come close. A second 3 different times this season, and was looking, obviously just a couple corners away from maybe getting his first win of his young career, and obviously the first of the season. But simply put, it wasn't meant to be. That doesn't mean he hasn't had the pace, far from it. Rolled into yesterday's pre-final with pole position, and as it stands right now, is going to go back-to-back. We'll see if Clinton changes that as they come across the stripe for the 3rd time. Now Clinton moves up to first, puts that 61, and here comes Carpentier in the 95, a 58.043 outside of this draft pack, and I think running by himself, Levi in the 95 finding something.
Yes, and I believe one of the other Carpentier is running in one of the other classes. I believe one of the younger classes, either with NW60cc, or maybe it is, I can't quite remember, maybe the Cadet Briggs category. But once again, a lot of drivers doing double duty, a lot of father-son, father-daughter combos, brothers, sisters, and whatnot on offer here at NWKA. It is still a very much a family experience here at SIMA here this weekend. But these have been the top 2 for sure. I mean, you never know in 206. There's really a mix of drivers that could get within striking distance, but it is the 199 and the 61, or the 199 and the 61 show here on offer. Still 30 seconds to go. These drivers likely coming around to what is effectively the white flag in this qualifying session. Seems as though nobody improving. No, Schmidt to the top of the board. And that number 8, the driver that comes into this race second in the points, needing some bad luck to befall your championship leader in Trevor Clinton. Certainly is going to help if you can start this race from the inside of row number 1.
And now Clinton going to drop back to row 2 provisionally, but still tucked in behind Thorpe Double, and he's essentially going to be stuck there for the remainder of going to go down low. Interesting, into turn number 5. That might cost him lap delta. We'll have to wait and see. And I'm not sure if Thorpe Double has any intentions of giving a shove. But the kid in the TV kart who stood on pole just 2 laps ago now drops back to P7 and is in the heart of what's evolved into this 4-kart train. Roscoe Schmidt, in theory, getting the most of the draft in front of him, but as they work through the motos one more time, he also has to check up the most to not get into the bumper of that Ital Kart of Addison Herrick right in front. Through turn 10 for the final time. Schmidt coming into the line. Has the pole sitter provisionally. How are they going to sort out this time? I don't think we saw any improvement across the board. No, we didn't. That'll be Roscoe Schmidt on pole position yet again. Looking for only his second win of the season, but when you consider he's only been off the podium twice this year, he's had that consistency that still makes him an outsider shot over your points leader in the form of Trevor Clinton. Even the qualifying is entertaining here in 206 Junior. That'll be one to look out for when we get to the pre-final in about 90 minutes time. We'll step aside for just a moment here from SIMA. We've got 2 more classes to qualify before we go behind the paywall here in Washington.
Welcome back. It's Kart Chasers' continued production of the final round of the NWKA Burly Cup here from SIMA in Sumas, Washington. I'm Dean Held, joined by Jackson Lambros up here in the booth. One of the funner races yesterday, or I should say one of the calmer races, rather, NW60cc. We saw great speed out of Maverick Thompson throughout most of the day. Just did not seem to have it in that final race, looking to remedy the demons from that Saturday afternoon affair. Provisionally, he will be leading the field here in this qualifying session. Once again, it is a 5-minute time session. You can keep up with the timer in the top left of your screen. I believe it is about a 9-kart field here on offer, as it seems as though Maverick not wanting to be the one to punch the hole in the air.
Yeah, had a little bit of a slide there coming into turn number 3. And that gave Croft and Fickling an opportunity to go on through. That's Lotfi going further back in the 16, trying to make that pass move on Fickling. I think they were trying to figure out who wanted to lead and who wanted to push just a little bit further back. That's one of the Ital karts, and I believe that's Ashton Croft in the 84. Coming out of turn number 8. Ooh, late look there from Thompson. And these kiddos are qualifying like they're racing. Oh, my goodness. Into turn number 4 here. Or, excuse me, turn number 10.
I will say, though, this is going to set up Maverick Thompson for a heck of a tow if he can just get those tires to warm up, although it seems like that kart not really in the racetrack at the moment. It's going to be Ashton Croft that will provisionally lead this group around, but it is Ian Lotfi at a 58.1 that goes provisionally top of the board with Sebastian Ochi with Ashton Croft in tow in P2 and P3. It must be really interesting. A lot of these kiddos are doing double duty. I should say a significant amount of these kiddos are doing double duty, splitting time between NW60 and our Cadet Briggs category with 9 and 12 drivers in that apiece. I would say
a little bit of an off there, as I believe the 16 of Lotfi going a little bit off. And we've seen that a handful of times, specifically in Cadet. We actually saw it exactly in 206 earlier on for their qualifying. And what I believe to be potentially green. And no, that's the 70 of Powers actually going for a little bit of a ride. So testing the track limits on the outside. Otto Powers, one of the outside championship contenders coming into this weekend, 4th in standings. It is still 1st and 2nd, Thompson and Fickling. They did not finish the day where they wanted. It was P6 for Thompson, your leader. The good news for him was Fickling was down in P8. And your podium actually entirely making their debuts this season on Saturday. Lotfi and Carpentier, some regulars at the club level. Sebastian Ochi, we've seen obviously make the trek down to California for 4 or 5 rounds of Champions of the Future America Series. I believe running with Nash Motorsports. You don't want to quote me on that, though. Regardless, he has been a multi-time podium contender in the mini category out at K1 Circuit in Winchester, and was able to bring home hardware yesterday behind the wheel of the 46. He's also done some of the 206 stuff, but looking very strong, working his way out of turn number 9. Fastest right now, 57.883, just a hair under a tenth over Ashton Croft in the 84. They'll have about a lap and a half. Otto Powers improving to P5. That's a major shuffle out in front as Leon Lofty now going back to the front.
Not so fast. Sebastian Ochi says not quite yet.
Oh, now green.
Oh, wow, we've had a bunch. I was going to say yesterday we heard that most of these drivers aren't even lifting for they're not braking for these corners, just a slight lift, enough for the grip in the racetrack to slow these karts down. So I would imagine for sure having a tow is going to be a major advantage, as it looks like Maverick Thompson once again trying to lift off to find a tow. Not really interested in being the one to lead the train around currently. Finds himself sitting in position number 6. So, once again, Max Green setting out a 57.4, a very impressive lap from the young man in the Ital kart. Just got to make sure that if you're one of these guys, don't ruin your race. There's only 8 of you here today, or at least 8 of you that have set times thus far this afternoon. Make sure that this go-kart stays in one piece. It might not be to your exact liking right now, but the track hopefully should come to you once Mr. Sun hopefully decides to join us a little bit after lunch break, as we're following now the 94 of Tyrus Fickling. Still no changes this time by. Coming up to 1 to go. It's do or die for these kiddos.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it earlier. I'd imagine if you're coming from a 206 with how light and how small these Cadet chassis are, even if it's a much more powerful 60cc air-cooled engine, you're really your braking points and your racing line crucially are very much the same. And you know, there's maybe one corner really on the racetrack where you're using the left foot to brake, but so much of it is just lifting to pitch the kart in. But you have got so much grip. These LeContes are incredibly soft and are able to bite into this very abrasive surface here at SIMA. And we only had seemingly half a day of green flag running yesterday, but the rain wasn't too bad that it washed away all of the week's work of laying down the rubber. There's still plenty of grip on tap here on this racing surface. Out of turn number 9 for the final time, keeping an eye on the 17 provisional pole sitter of Max Green, who got half a second nearly up from Sebastian Ochi. Here they come to the line out of turn number 10, and the blue helmeted driver not able to improve. 57.028 is the benchmark. None of the guys able to get there, and crucially, Maverick Thompson and Tyrus Fickling, your 2 championship contenders, still very far down in the field, 6th and 7th, respectively. Regardless, Max Green, Seb Ochi, Leon Lotfi, Ashton Croft, and Otto Powers, your top 5 in 60cc.
From the garage to the grid, Acceleration Kart Racing is your one-stop shop for karting. Engines, parts, safety gear, tools, and more from the brands you trust. Everything you need for race day starts at shopakr.com.
First half of qualifying for Senior 206 brought to you by Chin Construction. And the first stage of trying to figure out who is going to make it to the 36 kart main event to wrap things up today, this weekend, and for the 2026 edition of the NWKA Burly Products Super Cup. Colt Schlotthauer, I believe, is still your championship leader despite a hectic main event yesterday. But man, what a drive from the 46, able to fight his way through, the 45 Croc Promotions machine, able to claw his way from, I believe, outside the top 10 to get himself onto the podium. Himself and Ben Corkery able to work at least a little bit together behind the wheel of the Croc Promotions machines.
Yeah, it was pretty tough between the Ital Kart duo of Miller and Nika Zambayev, as well as the Croc Promotion duo, as we see on our screens leading the train around. Of course, ahead of your current winner from yesterday, Riley Miller, who came from deep in the field to be able to come out and win that race. Probably one of the better races that I've honestly seen all year through all my time here at Kart Chaser. Was a phenomenal show. We looked away for 1 second. It was a 3-kart breakaway, a little gap, a 2-kart gap, and then, I think 7th on back. We looked away for about a lap and a half. We came back, and it was a 12-kart fight for the lead, and it was on from there. Provisionally, I would not want to be at the head of this train. I can tell you that much. We've seen as much, rather, from the Junior 206s, as it's one of the Wicked Racing karts. I believe that is the 6 of Jack Bowdish, one of the drivers doing double duty, making a move up the inside, up into P3 in this train at the moment. But, I mean, if the teammates work together, I think they'll go quick. I just don't know if you really have enough to go fast enough to be on the pole position if you're out in front.
We don't have the point system, so we're not going to be able to give it to you live, but we'll just tell you, coming into the final round, it is very close. Schlotthauer still your points leader at 1888, but right behind after yesterday, Ben Corkery at 1857, 1 point up from Riley Miller at 1856, Jack Bowdish at 1822. Leash, Trey Arnzen, Massimo Valiante, Grayson Thorpe double, all within the 1700s. A lot of guys getting stacked up here. This is shades of Monza qualifying for Formula One a couple of years ago, as a couple guys are backing out. I think maybe a couple with mechanicals are just getting checked up. They're just trying to find someone to draft with, Dino.
No one wants to be the hare running from the fox. This is all gamesmanship, trying to figure out who is going to bend the knee and going to be forced to lead this train around. You can see how valuable it is. And remember, I mean, it's going to be really, really close. We've got currently 14 drivers separated by a little over half a second. I can only imagine those margins are going to get even finer the closer we get into the session. So this quite literally, and remember, this is only half of the field that we have on offer here this weekend. This is fighting for rows. If you're starting on the outside of row 14 versus the outside of row 18, that kind of thing, that could be the difference between you potentially getting caught up in an incident and having to race your way into the big show, or at least having a guaranteed spot looking ahead to this afternoon.
So that game of cat and mouse has pushed Schlotthauer, Wolf, Benson, Corkery, and Valiente to 10th and lower. And it's pushed Reg and Kerr, the 0-0 now, to the pole position provisionally. Woo. And here comes everybody else once again. It's Jackson Leash and Jack Bowdish now provisionally on the front row. Ben Corkery moving some spots up as well. P3, Regan Kerr still hanging on to the top 10, though. He'll be 6th, as now I believe the 808 of Dreisen up into P8. So the pace very quickly shifting back over to these guys working together. Jackson Leash pushing, I believe, another GFC. Yes, it is the number 6 of Jack Bowdish. So those two still working together. Wicked Motorsports stablemates right across from each other in the GFC tent, doing everything they can to lock out this front row for Gary Carlton and for Kyle Wick. And obviously for their own championship hunt, they still have Ben Corkery in that Sonny Hayes tribute helmet, the 116 Croc Promotions machine for Ascent competition.
And I tell you what, they are in a perfect spot this lap. They've just closed that gap to one of your drivers. I would be imagining that they're going to extend their advantage, which they do, but Massimo Valiente, as well as Grayson Thorpe Double, decided to get in on the action, finally making an appearance. It is game on here at the front. It is anyone's game.
They'll go offline, and it was Thorpe Double who gave the bumper to Valiente. Just out of the back of Colt Schlotthauer, 5th on track, just in front of Valiente in that Ital Kart. And look at this, they've collided now and snowballed into a 5 or 6 kart freight train. I'm not sure if there's any more pace in it, and them running so close together certainly isn't going to help them.
No, I mean, you can do a decent lap kind of bumping like this, but as you can see, that Newton's cradle effect really, really affecting the gaps. You have to have, I would say, almost as much as a 4/10 gap to the kart in front of you and be able to really suck up throughout the lap, especially through the moto section, where these engines have such little power. We heard obviously yesterday that these drivers aren't even hardly lifting around this circuit with how much grip that they have, and I can only imagine on this brand new LeConte rubber on a track that is still very cold but really warm on the racing line, it's going to be really, really quick. We'll see if there's any last second improvements. Luther up 1 spot. Seems as though for the most part nothing really changing, although Miller to P6.
Oh, wow. So a last-minute change there. Andrew Oakey in the 24 gets himself into the top 10, but Riley Miller,
at the
very
buzzer.
Strong early on in the 96, if you remember, was in the podium spots and kind of got pushed back by his Ital Kart stablemates, unfortunately. Will roll off P6 for his heat, but crucially, not a lot of changes in that final lap in that main kart. That means your top 5 pretty much unchanged, and Massimo Valiente on the front row. Well, thanks for sticking with us in choosing the West Coast crew in what is a quadruple header weekend, the second of the year for us here at Kart Chaser, as we are out at Newcastle Motorsports Park in Indiana for the RMC Trophy Final, trying to punch some tickets to the Grand Final. MCC Cincinnati and Cup Karts North America's Summer Nationals, the only place you're going to find more 206s out on track this weekend. And as well, Bushnell Karting, Bushnell Motorsports Park for the 8th round of the Florida Karting Championship. Brad Dalton on the call down on the East Coast. Pretty cool to think that what started out 5 years ago as Xander Clements, Trevor Blue just running around trying to make media packages for a couple of promoters has evolved into a team of over 30 kart-loving creators traveling around these 50 states trying to bring you content. And we hope you love watching just as much as we love making it. Would also like to remind you, we'll be going behind the paywall once again following the conclusion of this qualifying session. And we've got no lunch break after this. We're getting right into the action. 10:54 scheduled start time for Cadet Briggs 206. So again, if you're not a premium member for Kart Chaser, you don't know what you're missing. Not only access, obviously, to this weekend and the Burly Products Super Cup, but Champions of the Future America Series, Cup Karts North America, Rotax Grand Finals, and America's Trophy, and of course the big national event, SCUSA Pro Tour United States Pro Kart Series, and the SCUSA Championship Series, and so much more. Subscribe on the Kart Chaser YouTube channel. Become a premium member today for $9.99 a month, and always make sure you're doing that off of iOS, as they will always give you a $2 surcharge on top of that. So if you can, do it on PC. If you've got a mobile phone, make sure it's on Android. Kart Chaser Premium. Subscribe today. We're finally turning them loose for the final qualifying session of the day. Senior Briggs 206, Karts 25 to 48. I have been told that we've had a handful more entrants for Sunday only, Dino. We obviously saw that for Masters. I think we might have a couple of more. This is the 206 of Levy, who was the first one out in the CMC machine, what I believe is a OTK red speed. Don't quote me on that. But the bare bones 206 is going to be the first to the line in 206.
Yeah, one of our Gene Master drivers. We saw the driver doing double duty, got unfortunately eliminated during the senior LCQ yesterday, and then pushed that kart around the scale lines, got back in line, and jumped straight into this, or got eliminated in the senior LCQ, and then jumped straight into Masters. So really impressive stuff here from the driver of the 206. We'll see if that speed is going to translate today, although it doesn't look like a super quick lap thus far. But still early on in the session, we have a 5-minute clock. Hopefully we'll get that resetted on the broadcast for you guys watching, guys and gals watching at home. But just as many quick drivers in this field as we would have for the evens group. This is going to set the outside, I guess technically would be setting the outside of the grid for the main event. So still some pretty valuable real estate at hand, and we'll see who's going to go get it first.
Results yesterday and LCQ qualifiers determined who was going to come in for the bottom half of qualifying. 59.354, the benchmark set by Grayson Thorpe Double. We'll see how they do here as they work their way into turn number 1. Already, that's one of the Ascent machines, the 82, looking to the inside. Paulo Patini in the 43, just a little bit further back as well. Dylan Waslick, Jack Grody. Sadnik Anabayev in this group as well. A little bit further back in Talcart with the kind of highlighter green helmet. Bowden Barnwell as well was really, really strong in the pre-final. In the number 9, got kind of washed up and washed out by competition. Trying to turn that around here on Sunday. This is over to the 92, I believe. And the 42, excuse me, Nick Armstrong working his way out of the motos here. And what is evolving into a 4-kart system. One of the Sodis a little bit further back.
I don't think I've ever seen a bright orange racing suit before, but certainly very distinctive here.
Makes it easy for us.
Certainly does. And one of the Sodis here, as we see some of the quicker times start to filter into the previous times for these drivers. Up the inside goes the 956. We'll see if we can get a number check on that driver. But this is, I believe, both sessions are scored together, and then the odds and evens of that are what determine which heat race that you go into. So technically one giant session in a way, just kind of split into two parts.
Exactly.
At least as far as our understanding goes. So we'll see if any of these drivers are able to crack into that higher grouping. I would imagine the track is going to be about the same. I really don't know if there's going to be much of a disadvantage. We had this one year at Rock the Rio where one of the sessions got delayed. The first qualifying session with the quote-unquote slower drivers actually got better track conditions than the drivers that went later on. So we had kind of a shock pole position. I forget who took it home that day. It might have been actually 2 years ago, I want to say, is when that event occurred. But even still, a lot of good real estate here. Some good drivers that maybe had a little bit of bad luck yesterday afternoon, trying to remedy some of the demons of yesterday. It looks like Barnwell is currently the quickest one of the drivers on track. He slots himself up into P20. So unfortunately, the hard part is with this slower grouping of drivers, you don't really have as many quick guys to work with.
Right.
And when a draft is so, although Assad Nikodimbayev, as unfortunately
P9.
somebody has nicked the barriers on the exit of turn number 3. Hopefully everybody navigates that A-okay. But there are still some very quick drivers here in the session. Nikodimbayev obviously got second yesterday in our 206 main event, trying to put himself in a good spot for the main event later on today as well.
This is Alex Acosta in the 956 Sodi. Nick Armstrong giving chase in the Ascent Competitions machine. E42 and then the digital number 956 out in front. And for Assad Nikodimbayev, despite having no friends out here really, able to get himself into the top 10 provisionally. You can see, obviously, Armstrong trying to get out of line and maybe make a move, but it looks like that Sodi kart has something figured out, at least a little bit more. Here they come across the stripe once again. And wow, Sebastian Elizonde Castaneda working his way up a handful of spots as well. 21st just behind Bowden Barnwell. Lena Zablotny as well, finding a little bit more time. You see Jack Grody in this mix as well. Former Wicked Motorsports driver switching teams. Still trying to find pace behind the wheel of the 17. Landon Byerman in the 4. Eric Hermansen, Cam Blakesley back from 28th and 29th to 30th. Nikodimbayev would love to get a handful more spots here. Again, part-time driver, looked like he was maybe a contender, was working his way up to the front of the field with Valiente during the main event. And he did everything that was in his control. He was at the right place at the right time come the final lap. The only issue, ran out of friends very quickly once that white flag flew.
Yeah, unfortunately, his friend was in front of him and not behind him, as we got, unfortunately, the Gene Machine, or one of the Gene Machines of the 206 of Levy running off track there at the exit of turn number 9. But yeah, I mean, the hard part about this 206 category is so much of your speed is determined by those that you are around. I believe in this session is Nikodimbayev will be the highest finisher, as well as Allen and Parada in P15, or it's rather Ryan, as Schobert goes up into P15 provisionally. Once again, this is setting the odds versus evens for the heat races coming up later today. It is going to be Grayson Thorpe double with the quickest time of the combined sessions. Quite a big field where track position is going to be worth everything. We got a great show coming up for you guys later on today. And we, as my colleague Jackson Lambros had mentioned, we're jumping straight into the pre-finals. Cadet Briggs 206 right on the other side.
Schobert looked very strong yesterday as well behind the wheel of that TB kart. We'll see what he can do from P15. Landon Byerman in 16th. Cooper Ryan moving his way up to 18th. So a couple guys able to crack the top 20. Assad the only one to do it in Group 2 that has a top 10 go-kart. But folks, if we got a show for you right after this, it's time for us to go behind the paywall and go pre-final racing right after this. We hope you stay with us. We'll see you on the other side of this break in the Jump to the Paywall here from SIMA.
This broadcast is the sole property of Kart Chaser Group, LLC. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of the images, audio, or accounts of this event, in whole or in part, without the expressed written consent of Kart Chaser Group, LLC is strictly prohibited. Thanks for watching.